1,400 on the nose. Nicely done. Right, well, here we are today. This is me, I'm Joe, and here's a crowd activity. Okay, everyone after me, we're all gonna say this together, right? Old white guy, right? That's who we are. That is who I am. I embrace who I am because it's kind of obvious. So we're gonna talk about a few things today. But first, this is important to all of us in Canada. You may have heard about, there's a day of reconciliation for Aboriginal and Indigenous people. Vancouver in particular is very, leans towards this very hard. But I'm not gonna read everything to you because I don't wanna get too deep in this, but this is just a statement that we'd like to talk about before we start all of our presentations, in particular the Musqueam, the Squamish, and the Tsleil-Waututh groups that have been there before all of us. We're kind of all over their land, and so it's really important that we acknowledge that we are guests in this property. Come on in, the water's fine. So, you may have noticed that when you work at TIMBRE, me in particular get to look like an idiot most of the time because Jeff Coates works as a founder with us, and he's been drawing me looking stupid for about 10 years. He and I worked together at Capcom. That's when he started drawing me, usually in short jean shorts, which I don't own, but he's made it a thing. So, but today we're here to talk about a few things. We're going to talk about men. It's on you. You know that, right? We're going to talk about being an ally, what that is. We're going to talk about a sponsor. What that's all about. We're going to talk about how not to be an accidental a-hole on your journey, and then getting over yourself 101. We're going to compress that course really, really quickly. But first, a little bit about me. So my name is Joe Nickols, and I am, depending on which talk you've been to where I may have been a part of it, says I'm the Vice President of North America, which is a great gig. I'm the VP of Sumo Digital in North America, and a co-founder along with Zoe at TIMBRE. And Jeff, unfortunately, our other co-founder, is in another talk, so sadly he won't be here, but the three of us got together, and I'm one of the three that co-founded the group. So my whole deal is I've never really had a real gig. I just get paid for doing stuff that is cool. And case in point, I used to be a radio DJ, right? Let's all drink in that hair for a moment, shall we? So I did 8 years in radio, and then I went through my emo period when I worked at our record label with a tragic haircut, and that's so emo I'm holding a Portishead gold album. That is as emo as it gets. Then I had 3 unfortunate looks at EA. A lot of people, including Steve, who I worked with at EA, remembers that Joe when I didn't have a beard, and then I went full Californian Joe when I was in California, and then most recently I was the VP of Maxis at EA, overseeing the Sims for the past 4 years before we decided to do Sumo. But enough about me. I've had a journey, boy. It's been really hard for me. So let's review. Visible majority? Check. Tall guy with a beard? Yeah, check. ENFP, for those of you that follow along that kind of stuff, very extroverted. You may not have noticed that by yet. Check. Radio voice, likes to hear himself talk, yes. Opportunities fall in my lap, yes, because of what I look like and who I am. Never feels uncomfortable in a room of people, usually because they all look like me, right? This is a better example, though, today, that not being the case. And that is what the problem is here. So I have a question for you, because we like to make this interactive. Here's your question. Has any of you ever worked with or for an old white guy? Anyone? Somebody must have at one point, right? Ever feel strange? Of course not, because that's all we had, right? I'm here to tell you that, one of the biggest things you can do, certainly the men in this room, please take note, is take a moment and view the whole thing from someone else's lens, not just your lens. And that was the big learning that I've had for the past probably 10, 15 years. I always thought I was pretty tuned in to diversity and equity and inclusion. I thought, yeah, I know all about that stuff, right? And then I went to EA in 2017. And when I got there, I thought, yeah, I'm going to crush this. And I was like the first guy to run Maxis in decades. It had been women all before me. I actually had one really weird, awkward moment where an executive producer that reported into me, the first time I met her, she said, "Can I tell you something? And I said, sure. She said, I'm really disappointed you're not a woman. To which I said, well, so is my mom. but it was really weird for me. And it was the very first time I ever felt sort of singled out and discriminated against. And then I felt ashamed for feeling that way for the first time because, like, holy crap, people have been feeling this way for a long time. That's the point I was made. But I wanted to point out that I've worked with a lot of great people. And this is what really helped me at Maxis. So Maxis, my boss, Samantha Ryan. My boss's boss was Laura Miele. My marketing VP partner was Andrea. Christina Angesith was my HR director. My other HR partner was Candace. Lindsay Pearson was the executive producer on The Sims, and my finance partner, Wilma. See a pattern? Like, I was the guy. I was the totally odd one out. And it didn't really feel weird, though. It felt, for some reason, it just felt right because of the kind of company that Maxis was, right? So I didn't feel like super weird. And even though that looks like a super diverse thing, it's really not super diverse. It's a lot of women, but we only have 2 visible minorities in that group. So even Maxis back then could have done a better job. So they taught me a lot. They actually did put a dog shock collar on me. That's the truth. That's Wilma actually with a dog shock collar with a battery in it that they tried out. Those of you who may or may not have tried this at home, it really does hurt. But they did teach me a lot of stuff. But we really need to realize that men, it's all about us, right? It's all about us. And that's the problem, right? We have to be the change. I'm walking over here now in case the camera has to move because I'm paying attention to this side of the room now. It's all about us men leading the change. You know, we have to take ownership of learning about this stuff and acting on it, not just letting all the women that we work with police us to do this. It's not on them, it's on us. We have to figure this stuff out. Zoe taught me a very good lesson about that. Just saying, hey, you know what, like, you can't just keep coming to ask Zoe all the time if this is cool. You got to do some homework on your side, right? So that's very important to us. It's a responsibility for us to do this, but how, Joe? How can we do this stuff? I'm going to give you some fun tips on how we could do just this stuff. And here's some of the stuff that's worked for me. So being an ally. A lot of people don't know what an ally is because it's all the words that we hear all the time. It's like, oh, I'm a sponsor and I'm an ally and I'm so woke, and you throw these terms out around a lot. A lot of people don't really spend a lot of time knowing what they really mean. But this is one really that an ally is. I'm not Jeff's ally today, but you associate with the person as a helper. That's the definition in the dictionary. A person or group that provides assistance and support in an ongoing effort, activity, or struggle. That's just going to the Oxford Dictionary. That's what it says. It also talks about the war and other things that are less cool, but this is the one that we want to focus on. So I'm ready to be an ally. How do I do that? That sounds super cool. I want to put on my resume. Why be an ally? Those women are tired of doing the work. Are you tired of doing the work, Zoe? And so it's time for us to pick up some of that load. When we do the work, it makes us all better in this regard. So here's a way to do it. If you see someone being excluded, act on that. It costs you $0 to act on something like that if you see someone is being excluded. So, maybe you've got someone in the room and they're being ignored. Let people know that they need to be in the room. You see a really big important meeting we're all supposed to go to, and you notice that there's some people that aren't on the meeting list that should be. Speak up, talk about that. Say, hey, why isn't Mandy in that list? Why haven't we got Laura going to that meeting? Why isn't Lori in this meeting? Speak up, because the only time that this is going to change is when this kind of activity on our part, old white guys, start doing this kind of stuff. And be mindful of underrepresented talent and genders. Educate yourself on that. You have to really spend a little bit of time learning about it. Having Lori join us has been really great because Lori's got all kinds of fun tips for us almost every day, usually at 5 in the morning when she gets up to work out. So we have the don't tell me anything yet, Lori, because it's too early. But she sends us all this material to brush up on. It's been great. But really make sure that these people have a seat at the table. Invitations to that function, introductions to the people in your network. It costs you nothing to do this. And holy crap, will it come back to pay off in spades later on when you support the people you work with. So here's some ways you can start with it. If you see an opportunity to shine that light on an underrepresented person, just do it. Hey, what about this person over there? Not about that person? Did it cost you anything? No. It cost you less than a second to say it. Get them the exposure and the opportunity that they're probably totally qualified for, but they may not have had that opportunity. You have to open those doors for people. And it's like, by the act of you opening that door, then they can go through that door, and then they can knock the rest of the doors open themselves. A lot of people just need that acknowledgement, need to have that help to get through the first door, because the first door is really freaking heavy for a lot of people. The first door is the heaviest door to open. And if you see someone being overlooked, disrespected, get in, sort that out. I used to call it, I've been going to Heathrow so many times to hear see it, say it, sort it. And I thought it was see it, say it, sort it. And I think it's see it, say it, sorted. And that's if you see a suitcase that could explode, say something about it. And I thought, well, okay, I'm gonna use that in here. And then Jenny said, yeah, it doesn't make any sense to print. All right, so I'll give you a quick read of the comic. Jeff did this. There are two, well, there's one of the people are in here. That may or may not be sitting right beside Zoe and smiling. But like, how many times has there been a woman in a meeting full of men, and then they kind of go, you got the notes, right? Are you kidding? Oh, no, she's just good at writing. Or no, she's really neat. It's like, no, that's not how we roll. That's not how it works. You do not make assumptions about that stuff. So you have to stop doing that stuff. So I changed from Jenny's tip, instead of going see it, say it, sort it, I said, here's some red card meeting fouls. As I know that means something to you. Because I know that football is a thing. I worked on FIFA for nearly 10 years. I know about football, So here's a fun thing. Count the number of times a woman is interrupted in a meeting. Since I started thinking about this, I've been really paying attention about how often a woman is interrupted in a meeting or parroted. It's like, oh yes, someone said this thing, and then the man said it with a nice deep voice. It's like, oh yeah, like let's hear what he said, right? Don't let that shit happen, okay? But count, and you'd be surprised how often it happens. And when you start to notice it, stop that behavior. Redirect the conversation. Someone's interrupted. Hang on, let's come back to what Mandy was saying. All of a sudden, you're throwing the direction, right? Mandy's saying this, and you overrode her, and you're gently saying, you're a dick, you mowed that down, stop doing that. And you can do that gently. And call it out in live, real time. Don't just wait. Do it as it happens. Do it as it happens in a tactful way. And it's fun. You can try all kinds of different styles to see what works for you in a meeting when you're calling out someone being a jerk. You can also say, hey, by the way, Jenny was interrupted 3 times in this meeting. Could we just kind of take a minute and listen, let her finish her thought? All of a sudden, you're throwing that energy back to Jenny, who is trying to say something that has been interrupted. And it's really easy to do. But most of us men have to switch that mindset because we're used to stomping over people. We have to stop doing that. And of course, the other one, you take someone outside, take them out back after the meeting. It's like, you are an absolute, what are you doing? Sometimes you have to do that because sometimes the cool, the sleight of hand comments don't quite work. Sometimes you have to do it that way. Being super introverted, super loud. I have really had to be mindful of people that have the varying forms of neurodiversity. Because someone like me can drive someone nuts. Because I make myself sick sometimes. And I can't imagine someone that really doesn't like dealing with people like me. And I'm like, oh my God, I have to listen to this clown for a long time. But take some time and understand what it means. There's lots of forms of neurodiversity as well. Case in point, my wife is dyslexic. And I thought dyslexic just meant she saw letters backwards. Literally, that's what I thought it was. And it's not that. It was part of that, but there's many other forms of that. And understanding how my wife's brain works and has really enabled me to kind of figure things out oftentimes at work. When I meet someone who says, hey, by the way, I'm dyslexic, I'm like, oh, okay, let's talk about that. I, as you may have noticed, like to throw humor into just about everything I do. But be mindful that sometimes euphemisms or inside jokes are not inclusive for everyone. They might feel, oh my God. Like, I am making fun of Jeff Coates in this meeting and Jeff is not here. If I'm not in the meeting, is Joe gonna make fun of me? right? Jeff and I have an agreement. Like, we know. Like, Jeff and I are cool. We make fun of each other all the time. But, like, someone else might go, well, is Joe saying shit about me when I'm not in the room, right? So think about the humor and the style of humor that you use, because humor is one of the easiest way to not be inclusive. Ask your coworkers how they want to be interacted with. And that's something I never even considered years ago. You know, some people, we have a couple of people at our office that if I was to send a Slack message going, hey, have you got a minute? They would just go into a tailspin of panic. Because the last time that person heard if you got a minute, they got fired in the meeting right afterwards. I don't know that. But holy crap, is this person, every time I talk to that person, if I say that, you gotta be mindful that they don't want to deal with that kind of messaging. Or send a meeting without an agenda. Sumo. Sometimes that happens. We get some meeting requests from the UK and we have no idea what's happening. It's like, Zoe, we're going to a meeting. She goes, what's the agenda? It's like, I don't know. But there's all these people in it, so I think it might be legal. I don't know. It's not Tim, wherever Tim is. I'm not hitting illegal. But send a meeting request out and say, here's a couple things we want to talk about. Make sure you get that out there. By the way, if you want to brush up a little bit on what neurodiversity is, Hannah Corcoran did a talk earlier. And we'll find that on the archive. Yes? So about neurodiversity, take some time to learn a little bit more about your coworkers. They might tell you things that, hey, I'm dyslexic, or I don't like this. We ask everyone that comes to join TIMBRE, how do you like to work? How do you like to roll? What works for you? What doesn't work for you? And sometimes when people are new, they're like, oh, this is the test I'm going to fail. And they get nervous about telling you. But after time, they realize that, I can really trust these people. And they're asking because they legitimately want to know. But let them bring it up to you. Don't go, so, Nina, any things I need to be worried about talking to you? Like, don't do that, right? Like, let that information come to you. I mean, I could have a problem with stripes, and I could be going bananas right now. People will trust you when you give them a reason to trust you, when you give them evidence that you're going to listen to them, when you spend that time with them. Here's a fun fact. Not everyone is a 6'4", 6'5" DJ that's used to winging it. Not everyone is like me, right? We joke about winging it, and some people have pages and pages of notes. I don't tend to use notes. I just have what I need to say up there. I just kind of glance up there, and that's how I do it. But not everyone likes to work like that, so we need to make sure that we're mindful of that. DEI, make it a goal. You know, we do. Educate yourself on stuff like this. Beliefs, cultures, religion, orientation. Just educate yourself on it. You don't have to be, this is your biggest fan. He brought a fan with him. Come on, he's open season. Come on. You can't bring a fan to a meeting and not be singled out. I'm coming for you. Take a minute to learn about this kind of stuff because it's important. And if you don't know, call in some experts. Real experts that know what they're talking about. You know, Black History Month. Now, in Vancouver, we don't have a very large Black population. We just don't. We have a massive Asian population, but we don't have a big Black population. Doesn't mean shit didn't go down with the Black population in Vancouver, because it did. So we brought experts in to talk to us about that, and holy crap, was it educational, right? So it was amazing. I had no idea about a lot of the stuff that occurred in my own backyard. Shame on me for not knowing that. The Indigenous Day of Reconciliation, you know, we talked about a little bit. We brought in an expert to talk about that. It's important for us to understand that the ground that we stand on, we didn't just, you know, walk here as like, hey, it's mine. Well, we kind of did. But, you know, we need to be mindful that people were treated terribly, especially in Canada. All the residential schools, it's just a nightmare. And it was kind of like, oh, we just kind of kept that from the history books, right? We find out about it, and now it's like, man, we really need to get back and educate ourselves. So understand about culture. You know, I'll tell a weird story about Pride Month. That we were interviewing some candidates, and we were asking about what do you do for diversity and inclusion, and the only answer they had was, oh, well, for Pride Month, we sent out rainbow bracelets to everybody in the company. And well, that was it. Unannounced. It's just this, that's what you did for Pride Month? You just sent that out with no, it's like, Happy Pride Month here, wear this. And no understanding, no engagement with that. We did not hire that person. We had an Asian Heritage Month. And we had Lunch and Learn last month. And we have a person that works at our studio, get this right, Hmong, that comes from the Hmong area. How many people have heard of that? Right? Right? Exactly. So we're like, it's somewhere near Vietnam. And we're like, oh no, I identify as Hmong. It's like, I didn't know that was a thing. And he told us about all this stuff about this whole group of people that didn't identify as Vietnamese and what have you. And it was fascinating. And he works at Adam Hawk, right? Adam Hawk, Vancouver. Adam, not real name, but we call him Adam from Adam Hawk because everybody thinks Adam Hawk is actually Adam Hawk. If they don't know it's Adam Hawk. But anyway, that was really cool, super eye-opening and fun to learn about. But do it for the right reasons. Don't do it because you want to do a really clever woke post on LinkedIn. Say, well, look how woke I am. Don't do that, right? Do it for the right reasons. Because when you do it for the right reasons, you learn about these people, you embrace them in your culture, and you make them part of the culture. That's the right way to do it. And then everyone wins. Everything gets better. I mean, we talk about TIMBRE all the time. Culture drives creative, and it's true because we have a good mix. And then ask yourself, what does an inclusive organization look like, and what are some things you can do to support it? It's easy to do. It doesn't take very much time. So, be a sponsor. Well, I thought that's what a sponsor was. No, a sponsor is a little bit different between the sponsor and an ally. A sponsor tends to focus more on opportunities to help people advance. The good ones are kind of look at people and say, that person, I see something in that person, and start removing obstacles for that person and helping them go forward. I have sponsors. I've had sponsors for all my life, and half the time I didn't even realize they were my sponsor. I mean, come on. I was a DJ. Well, come on, DJs are just DJs, right? And then I was a record company guy, and I got hired at a video game company. And this line actually happened. It was a company called Radical Entertainment 100 years ago. And I was in the interview for a marketing position. Halfway through the interview, they said, you should be a producer. And I'm like, great, what's that? And I got the job because I was an old white guy. See the potential in people. Open doors of opportunity. I think everyone in this room works with other people, and they know little bits about the people that they work with. That person would be really good if I got them involved in that. Do that. It doesn't cost anything, and it's fun. And then you let that person thrive a little more, and then you feel good. Like I said, I've been sponsored many, many times. And after 25 years of making video games, I think I'm getting pretty good now at kind of looking at people and trying to read them and see where the potentials are. So it's a good idea to be a sponsor, and here's how you can do it. For one, you can ask questions and wait for it. Listen when people are actually answering the questions. How often have you asked someone a question, they're answering you the question, and you're already thinking about the next question that you're going to ask them because you're not listening to what they're saying, right? I am super guilty of that. So I have to take a minute and go, okay, just really listen, look them right in the eye, and give them your full attention to really listen to what they're saying. Find out what they're passionate about. And imagine taking what they're passionate about, could they put that passion into the role that I may be thinking about putting them in? Happened all the time when I was at EA. It was really easy because I had all these different people that really really felt overlooked about stuff. And I was the new guy, so I was okay to go knock shit over, and they were going to let me do that. And I was like move people around. And it was really great. It was really great to do that. It was fun. And I love embracing the stretch. I think it was Richard Branson said, always apply for the role, one up more than you're qualified for. I think he said that. Yeah, do that. It doesn't always work. Sometimes it does. Most of the time it does. And sometimes they do better than you thought. So always look at that. Can I give them that opportunity to really stretch? And commit your time, energy, and availability. That's the commitment you need to make. You need to give them your time and availability in order to help this happen. And we're just getting, again, it's not about you. It's moving shit out of the way for people to enjoy this kind of stuff. So you could be a diversity champion. It's a TIMBRE value. It's one of our values. My TIMBRE folks are just dying right I really believe the companies that are going to flourish in the future are the ones that embrace this kind of stuff. We used to ask all the time, people say, oh, they're a culture fit, and we talked about this. It's not a culture fit. Are you a culture add? We changed all of our language because we don't want you to be, the same as all of us. We want you to make us different by having more different viewpoints and different backgrounds in the company. And be mindful of your unconscious bias. Everyone in this room has unconscious bias. You just might not be completely aware of it. I don't have it. Yeah, I totally do, and I'm mindful of it. And you're going to make mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes. Maybe you're going to get someone's gender wrong. Maybe you're going to say to someone, "Oh, she was there," and it's like, "Oh, it's actually they." 99% of the time, people are going to say they're going to be okay. They're going to say, like, you made the mistake honestly. You're not being a jerk. And someone will say, "Hey, by the way, I prefer my pronoun is they." It's like, "Oh my God, I'll never do that again," right? But just it's okay if you make a mistake because everyone I find will forgive you for these mistakes. So make sure that you forgive yourself for making mistakes in this area, you can make this an everyday part of your life. It has been life-changing for me, both at Maxis and at TIMBRE. It's been I feel so good going to TIMBRE. I take screenshots all the time, usually of Jeff or Zoe. I take screenshots of Jeff or Zoe in a reaction doing something, and then I turn it into an emoji in Slack, and then we send it to each other. Zoe was in a meeting with Tim and David, Tim Reba Davies and David Bailey, and she froze going. So I took a whole screenshot, and then I underlay Whitney Houston singing "I Will Always Love You," and sent it to everybody, because that's how we roll. But the screenshot that it did take that was really mindful, it was a screenshot of a meeting I was in with everybody at TIMBRE. And it was amazing, because TIMBRE's about 50-50 men and women. But if I want to go really granular, it's like 47% of this, and these people identify this way, so it was a really good mix. And it felt so good to see a video game company in North America looking like this. And I sent the screenshot to everybody. Said, "This feels good that we look like this," because I've been in meetings where there's no women. Is Nina here? Oh, there's two Ninas. Nina there. We're in a meeting. There's two Ninas. We're in a meeting and we're talking about a game. And someone, I don't know who it was, and I would never mention the person's name, probably even ever remember because it was just suicide. This person went, "Yeah, but are women gonna like this game?" I'm like, holy shit. Nina was in the room and she goes, hello. She turned the microphone on and she said, "I love this game, and I'm a woman, and I'm the only woman in this meeting." It was a great moment, and it was so awesome that you said that, It was awesome. Here's how to fail an interview at TIMBRE Games. Say, I don't see color. What a BS answer that is, right? Of course you see color. You're supposed to see color. You're supposed to celebrate it. Don't say everyone is the same and should be treated that way. We get a lot of people that say that too. Zoe's the closer. She comes in at the last question in an interview and says, "Tell me what a diverse workspace feels like to you, and inclusive workspace, and what do you do about it?" And we're like on the edge of our seat. Where's this answer going to go? And it's don't say that as an answer. No, not everybody is the same. So don't make that mistake. Don't get all worked up about people's names. I used to do this. I am so guilty of this. And again, it took my TIMBRE leadership team to help me with this one. My name is Joe. My full name is Joe. I didn't even get a Joseph. Like, what a ripoff, man. And when your name is Joe, you get excited about people's names. When people would come in and we hire these people, say, "This person's got a great name," and I would harp on that name. And I was like, "Oh, it's a great name," and I'd kind of talk about the name and everything. And then someone pointed out to me, said, "You know what? That might make them feel like really singled out and uncomfortable." I'm like, "But I'm coming at it that I'm celebrating how cool their name is." And they suggested to me, maybe put the shoe in the other foot. So what if I went to a different country and Joe, no one's ever heard the name Joe, and all day people are like, "Joe, Joe, 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 what a cool name." I'd feel stupid, right? It was a great lesson for me. So while I wanted to celebrate what I thought was a cool name, I was actually alienating that person and not realizing it, being the accidental asshole. I don't want to be that. So don't do that. Don't say, oh my God, your hair is so cool. Can I touch it? Don't do that. Can't do that to Steve. Don't single people out as subject matter experts as well based on your assumptions, using your unconscious bias. Oh, this person's going to know all about that because they are that. Maybe they don't, right? Actor auditions. This is something that my daughter told me about. My daughter's an actor, and she's been getting roles. And she gets all these casting calls to come and audition for roles. And they always say, we're looking for a strong woman. You think they ever ask for a strong man? That's a strong man. They don't ask for a strong, looking for a strong woman. What does that mean? We're all strong. And my daughter called that out, and I thought, that's really interesting, because how many people, it's like, oh, no. If you're trying to get a character to say the character acts like this, just say it. We're looking for an overly opinionated actor that likes to talk all the time. Okay, that is what they're looking for. Don't say I'm looking for a strong one. My daughter was telling me about this. So getting over yourself. Remember, it's not about you. Not about us dudes. This is directed at dudes. It's not about us. I have 3 places that I look to for when I need some grounding. My family. I'm surrounded by girls. I can't get away. It's my wife and my 2 daughters. They accept 0 BS from me. And I'll say something and my daughter goes, that's not cool. I'm like, it's not cool? It's not cool. Okay, it's not cool. So I get that. I also get grounding from my executive partners at TIMBRE. Lori. Show natural size. Jeff, who's not here, and Zoe up there. But they keep me on track too. But most of all, our TIMBRE team keeps us on track. The cool thing about working for TIMBRE is you get one of these when you start, right? Jacqueline is right there. Right there. Okay, Kat's easy to find because she has purple hair, so Kat's right there. And where's Candace?
Oh, yeah, by Laura and beside Cass.
Oh, there she is. Sorry, it's too close. We call them Timberoos. That's what we call people who work at TIMBRE, so they keep me grounded. And just one last bit. I am still an old white guy, but that doesn't mean I can't be part of the fixings. Doesn't mean, I think, a lot of people say, you can't talk about diversity and inclusion. Damn straight I can, right? Because I'm the problem. So I want to be part of the solution here. So I am still that. I'm always going to be that guy. But when you leave here, I want you all to think about how you, all of you, how could you be a sponsor? Could you do that? I think just have a thought on it. How could you be a sponsor? How can you be an ally? And you could be a diversity champion, because that's super easy to do too. It is one of our values at TIMBRE, and it's one of the things that makes TIMBRE TIMBRE. So if you like this session, hit the link to subscribe. And if you didn't like this session, my name is Jeff Coates. And that's it. Thank you.